Imagine standing on a windswept hillside in Norway, your fingers tracing ancient symbols carved deep into weathered stone. The marks seem simple at first, just straight lines and angles, but these weren't mere decorations. They were messages from warriors, lovers, and mystics who lived over 1,000 years ago. They were runes, and they carried power that went far beyond words. The Vikings believed that runes weren't invented by humans. According to their mythology, Odin, the all-father of the Norse gods, discovered them through an act of unimaginable sacrifice. He hung himself from Yggdrasil, the world tree, pierced by his own spear, for 9 days and 9 nights. No food, no water, just endless suffering, and at the brink of death, in that liminal space between worlds, the runes revealed themselves to him. He tore them from the depths of existence and brought them to humanity. This wasn't just an alphabet. This was divine knowledge, a gift wrapped in agony. Think about what that meant to a Viking. Every time they carved a rune, they weren't just writing. They were channeling something ancient and powerful, something that came from the gods themselves. The word rune actually means secret or mystery in Old Norse. So when a warrior etched runes onto his sword before battle, he wasn't labeling his weapon. He was invoking protection, summoning courage, calling upon forces that modern minds struggle to comprehend. The runes were magic and language merged into one. The most common runic alphabet used by the Vikings is called the Younger Futhark. It had just 16 characters, and each one had a name, a sound, and a meaning that went deeper than its phonetic value. Take the rune Tiwaz, shaped like an upward arrow. It represented the god Tyr, but it also symbolized justice, honor, and sacrifice. A Viking seeing that symbol wouldn't just think of a letter. They'd think of Tyr offering his hand to the monstrous wolf Fenrir, knowing it would be bitten off, all to save the world. One symbol, multiple layers of meaning. That's the genius of runes. But here's where it gets fascinating. Vikings didn't use runes for everything. They didn't write grocery lists or casual letters. Runes were reserved for important things, things that mattered, memorials for the dead, ownership marks on valuable possessions, protective spells, declarations of love or curses against enemies. Each inscription was intentional, deliberate, sacred. The effort it took to carve into stone or wood meant that every word had weight. Every message was worth preserving for eternity. We found thousands of runestones scattered across Scandinavia, and each one tells a story. Some commemorate fallen warriors, sons who died in distant lands, battles fought with honor. Others are surprisingly tender. There's a runestone in Sweden raised by a man named Holmfast for his wife Odindis. The inscription is simple but profound, speaking of love that transcended death. These weren't primitive people scratching marks into rocks. These were human beings expressing the deepest emotions we all share, using a language that felt powerful enough to match those feelings. The Vikings also believed certain runic combinations had magical properties. They called these combinations bind runes, where multiple symbols were merged into one complex design. A warrior might combine the runes for protection, strength, and victory into a single powerful sigil. These weren't random. The creation of a bind rune required knowledge, intention, and belief. It was a form of magic that anyone could access if they understood the system. Runes democratized power in a way. You didn't need to be a priest or a king. If you knew the runes, you could shape your fate. But then something happened that almost destroyed this ancient knowledge forever. Christianity swept across Scandinavia, and with it came the Latin alphabet. The new religion viewed runic magic with suspicion, sometimes with hostility. The old ways were pagan, associated with gods that the church wanted people to forget. Slowly, over generations, the knowledge of runes faded. By the medieval period, most people in Scandinavia couldn't read them anymore. These powerful symbols became decorative, nostalgic, misunderstood. The living tradition died, and runes became relics. For centuries, runestones stood silent, their messages locked away from the world. Then, in the 17th and 18th centuries, scholars began the painstaking work of decoding them. They compared inscriptions, studied Old Norse languages, pieced together the grammar and meanings letter by letter. It was like solving thousands of individual puzzles. each one offering a glimpse into the Viking mind. Today, we can read most runic inscriptions, though some remain mysterious, their meanings lost to time or deliberately obscured by their creators. What's remarkable is how runes have returned to popular culture. You see them in movies, video games, tattoos, and jewelry. Some people are drawn to their aesthetic, those sharp, angular lines that look both ancient and modern. Others are attracted to the mythology, the idea that these symbols carry power. But there's a responsibility that comes with using runes. They're not just cool designs. They're the written legacy of a culture, a people who saw magic in language and language in magic. When you really think about it, the Vikings understood something profound about communication. They knew that words aren't neutral. The act of writing something down, especially in symbols believed to be divine, was an act of creation. You weren't just recording reality, you were shaping it, manifesting it, making it permanent. In our digital age, where words are typed and deleted in seconds, where messages disappear into the void, there's something powerful about a culture that carved their truths into stone. So the next time you see a runic inscription, whether it's on a museum artifact or a modern interpretation, take a moment. Remember that these symbols were born from sacrifice, used with intention, and carried meanings that went soul deep. The Vikings are gone, but their runes remain, still whispering secrets from the north, still inviting us to decode not just their language, but their entire way of seeing the world. And maybe, just maybe, there's something in that ancient wisdom that we've forgotten but desperately need to remember.